What were some of the challenges in putting this roster together?
The challenges is, you always have turnover. With the modern day portal windows, you're gonna have turnovers. Guys want to play. Guys, think they have better opportunities out there. Some guys are not happy. So you're always gonna have transition and turnover, and it's just constantly trying to go out and not only replace but upgrade in those positions. So those challenges presents opportunity for us, and that was, that's the challenge that everybody's facing. But I feel that we addressed ours really, really well. We took advantage of the opportunity.
Brandon, you have 3 JUCO guys coming in, all some level of All-American. A couple of them just won a national championship. Was that getting JUCO players a specific strategy for this class for some reason?
I wouldn't say that was like a key strategy. It was similar as any other addition that we had, going out and evaluating talent and getting the best talent that we can here. It was a strong evaluation process that went into it. And, a big part of that was the production. And, so those guys, like you mentioned, those accolades that they achieved, not only as a team at their JUCO, because team success is huge as well. We want to recruit winners. But then on the flip side is, the production that they had as an individual within their program and their team. And so the same way that we brought in the JUCO guys, we evaluated, across the board like that.
Did they come onto your radar in a different way than the other transfers or high school guys do? Like, how did you guys get hooked up with them?
No, very similar. Just constantly evaluating tape, and keeping our eyes and ears open while we're on the road about different talents, whether you're hearing about it from a high school coach, as you're going out high school recruiting and hearing from them about not only their current players, but, previous players that they've coached as well. But also we hit the JUCOs as well while we're on the road and constantly keep those relationships going.
With the money you held back in the fall for the spring, was there a certain dollar figure you were hoping to hold back that would help you build this roster the way you wanted to?
I wouldn't say a specific dollar number. We had a target in mind of what it would take to be successful, but we certainly last year and then this year the goal was the same. Putting together the best roster that we possibly could in the time frame that we had, and then also addressing all of our goals. And so obviously, last year compared to this year's go around, we had time to sit back and digest what exactly our needs were, our immediate needs were, to better analyze and prepare for this portal cycle, I would say. I think for the 3 portal cycles that we've had so far within the program, our staff being here since December of 24, it's progressively gotten better and better each cycle that we've been a part of as far as addressing our needs.
How much did just having those extra finances help with getting guys to take your calls, getting foot in the door, maybe some guys that you wouldn't have a year ago?
Oh, it's tremendous. Our athletic director and our administration, Mike Babinski, he filled us with what we needed to be aggressive, not just, answering the call for, the baseline, but he put us in position to be aggressive and attack the portal. That was a goal that we set out, but also a goal that he has in his mind as well. So it was two-folded. He wanted us to be aggressive. We also obviously are going to be aggressive and attack everything that we approach as a program and organization. But it definitely put us in a good spot to compete with anybody across the country. I mean, we beat out a lot of blue blood programs across the country on a lot of talent that we have. And I mean, those are the stories that don't necessarily get told all the time and are accurately true when they're being told at other times. But knowing what I know from the time of recruiting the guys that we brought in as newcomers, you hear some of those stories, and it just reassures how aggressive you were able to be in the portal.
Brandon, how early do you start, having the conversations with your current guys in season, just in terms of retaining them, and I guess kind of walk us through that process as you have to navigate that aspect of things while still playing the season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that it varies from player to player, but for the majority, the bulk, those conversations are being had towards the back end of the season. You know, once you get into that November time frame, December time frame, obviously right before the portal opens up. So those retention conversations are being had anywhere from maybe mid-November to leading up to the portal, and throughout it as well. You know, we were able to retain some guys, as you saw, while the portal was open. You know, while they were exploring out other opportunities within the portal. You know, we were able to bring them back home where they belonged at and where they wanted to be at. And so those conversations go far and wide from probably mid to the third week of November on through the portal, at least during these portal dates that we just had.
And Brandon, I don't know if you have a template. I was curious, you only have so much money you can spend.
Mm-hmm.
Are there positions you allocate, hey, we're going to spend this much on quarterbacks, this much on running backs, on defense? I mean, you slot money to certain positions, and if you do so, what are some of the more pricier positions or the positions that you allocate more money to than others?
Yeah, very similar to any pro sports organization. You have schemes, you have schematics in which you try to build your roster around from a personnel standpoint. And so, if you look at any of our favorite pro teams or organizations, you can see usually and tell where they're investing their money at. You know, the draft is a prime example of it, but then how they attack free agency. So it's a lot of similarities there and parallels that you can draw. But the obvious is the trenches. You know, you have to build from where the ball is snapped at, and that's the trenches, the O-line and D-line. There's always going to be a significant need for star talent there. And I strongly believe that we address that and built from the inside out. You can have as many guys, and this is coming from a former linebacker, you can have as many guys as you want to, they can run around and they're star-studded talent doing X, Y, and Z, but if they don't have the big guys up front, then their talents are a little bit shaded and they're not able to put themselves in positions to succeed then. So obviously those are strong points for us, but then also just addressing our needs from this past season and developing our roster based on guys who either graduated and are now going on to play pro football or just graduating and are done playing football, and then also those that left the program as well in the portal.
You guys obviously fund rev share to the limit. You had a little bit of extra money this year too. But how does Purdue compare to its peers when it comes to that extra money, that NIL money, and explain how that works? I know there's an in-house mechanism, but you think Purdue's in competitive beyond rev share with some of its peer programs?
I do strongly believe and confidently believe, I know that we're in a very, very strong spot to compete. I did not feel any pressure while we were competing in the portal for different talents and players across the country, meaning that I felt that we were in a really good spot to compete for any and everybody that we wanted and that we targeted and went after. There's obviously going to be, some programs that are somehow, some way, not just overpassing the cap, but superseding the cap. And those programs, you're competing with them as well. We're not going to back down to anybody, but there's obviously some that are playing with a different set of money, from a monopoly money standpoint, if you will.
You said you felt like you could go after anybody and everyone you wanted, that you had the money to do that. At the same time, are there still guys who aren't taking Purdue's call right now just because of where the program is, and how much is winning? It's kind of like a chicken before the egg thing. Like, how much is winning going to help give you the access to actually use that money, I suppose? Am I seeing that the right way?
Absolutely. There's different wants and needs, from each guy. It varies from player to player that you're recruiting out of the portal. You know, some guys, they only care about money. Those are the guys that we don't want in this program, because sooner or later that will have a negative impact on our program. There's some guys that strictly care about winning. Those are the guys that we want in our program, but obviously we got to put ourselves in position, you know, from a results standpoint, win-loss record standpoint, to win those guys over, you know, if that's the sole thing that they're valuing. But I think it's an overall group of different things. You know, you got to be firing on all cylinders. You know, money. You know, the rev share side of it and NIL, but then also, you know, as a win-loss program, but then the relationships and the staff and the people that you have within your program, that wins as well. You know, facilities, that is a part of it, but everybody has really good facilities. I think where you win a lot of these guys over are, you know, from obviously the win-loss record, but then the rev share and NIL standpoint, but also the biggest one is the people. We won a lot of players over with the people that we have in our program, and also the academic side of it. Believe it or not, that is still important. The education is extremely important. And if it's not just to the players, their parents are extremely invested in that as well. So that's still a huge piece of a recruiting benefit that we have at Purdue, is the academic success that we've had as a program and as a university.
Is that as big of an impact with the portal class as it is with the high school?
I know I'm saying kind of it depends. It varies, you know, but I'm saying that a lot, but it truly does. It varies. You know, some high school parents and families, they only care about the rev share side of it and the NIL side of it, and some, you know, have a well-versed balance of what they care about, and, you know, checking each of those boxes, and in the same way with the portal.
You mentioned 3 portal cycles, not having a spring cycle, and obviously last year this staff had just been put together as well. How much ahead of the curve can you get this year, not having to worry about maybe losing these guys here in a few months?
That's so important. You know, the last couple of years, you know, you have to worry about, you know, even like you always have to worry about retaining your roster, but then even those guys that you bring in and say that winter cycle last year, you have some, you know, curiosity of if they're going to leave in the second window, you know, whereas this time around you have one window, which is just like a free agency period, and or the trading deadline, if you will, in the pro sports. And then once you finalize your roster, that's your team. You're confident in what you're, you know, in your personnel and putting the team together. You don't have to worry about those guys leaving the program at that point as much as you did, say, last year, having 2 portal windows. So there's pros and cons to both, you know, having 2 periods versus having one, or one being in, you know, the winter versus one being in the spring. And I think those opinions will vary from program to program, coach to coach, GM to GM. Everybody has a preference, but I certainly prefer having the one window, so that we can have our team together. I mean, like this time right now that the team is together, working out, going through winter workouts and getting ready to start our Winning Edge program, and then rolling in the spring, like there's so much foundational pieces that you miss out on if they don't have that time. So this time that our guys are working out right now, all being reported here, with the exception of a handful of guys in the freshman class and then the portal class that'll get here in the summer, is vital to the program and the success of the program.
Tampering has kind of been a hot button topic this offseason. Is there anything in place for you guys to try to minimize that for yourselves, whether it be, you know, just more conversations with your guys and kind of trusting them to be honest with you?
I mean, you can fight it as much as you want to. There's not a lot that you can do to stop the guys from tampering. You know, either they will, I mean, some will blatantly just reach out to the player directly. Some will reach out to their parents. Some will reach out to a high school coach. They'll reach out to their agent, you know, and talk to them, you know, kind of telephone, if you will. So tampering is one of the biggest issues right now, as well as those that are blowing way past the cap, and not having any guardrails there. But from a tampering standpoint, you can fight it as much as you want to, but ultimately, I think those foundational pieces, treating your players the right way, loving on your players, and developing them and helping them reach our team goals and their individual and personal goals as well. And then the success of the team, I think those things will ultimately help you fight back against the tampering.
Well, what's it like dealing with the agents, Brandon? I mean, it's a dynamic that's been relatively new, but sort of discuss that dynamic and dealing with the agents and any complications that can add.
Yeah, it's an interesting space. You've got some who are certified. You've got some who are not certified. You got some who are just an uncle who's playing the role. Some are working with their high school coach and they consider themselves an agent. And then you got the parents who are playing both roles, parent and also negotiating for their son. I think sometimes working with an agent is sometimes great because you can keep it professional and business and just talking ball and the facts of it. I think at times when you have to speak to a parent, it can be challenging at times, not all the time. Sometimes it's great, but at times it can be challenging because it's not many parents in the world that don't think the absolute world of their child, And so when you get into a negotiation and you start to lay out the facts as far as an evaluation of their son, that can be challenging, because they don't view it as that. They view their son as, the Little League All-Star that they were, the high school superstar, 4 or 5-star that they were. And, you just have to handle it with care, those conversations. And so, there's benefits to both sides. There's great sometimes working with the parents and the student athlete themselves. And then other times it's great working with an agent from a business and just from a business and talking through the evaluation.
Now, does every contract have a buyout? If so, if you just sign me and I go through spring ball, I decide I don't want to be here, can I just pay a buyout and leave?
Could you repeat the question?
If you just sign me from the portal this winter, I go through spring football, I decide I don't want to be here, can I just pay my buyout and get out of my contract and go somewhere else?
No, it doesn't work quite like that, but there's some nuances to it that everybody's figuring out exactly how binding are the contracts. I mean, they're pretty binding, and that buyout portion does have a large effect on guys making transitions like that. I won't get into the details of it, but the buyouts are helpful, I would say, as far as retaining your players and keeping them. I mean, there has to be. If there's not, then what is the point of a contract if it doesn't mean anything, if a guy can just pack up and leave whenever he wants to? So that buyout, at least then there's some return on your investment, on your initial investment and your plans, because when a guy just ups and leaves out of nowhere, while they're under a contract, obviously once you put a guy under a contract, you're planning as if they're going to be there, from all your other plans within the roster and personnel, from a personnel standpoint. But, when they are able to jump ship and leave, that obviously throws a wrench in your plans.
Can you guys walk away from somebody if you have for a 2-year contract, and this guy's not going to work out? Can you walk away from somebody?
Not without cause, or a mutual release. So there can be a mutual release between the two parties, or obviously like any of us, we can be terminated if with cause, if there's within reason. Sam, a couple more questions.
Can you speak to Butler Benton, what he adds to you, alleviates you from having to handle, and just, I guess, what his role is exactly?
Yeah, so Butler, our executive director of player personnel, Butler's been a tremendous addition for us. You know, the ultimate team player, man, we've attacked it together as a unit. You know, he, myself, Brad Odom, Xavier Goldsmith, and Pete Mayberry, us all as a group, and then our staff, obviously. They play a huge part in it as well. But Butler's been great on the evaluation side. He and I evaluate together on a daily basis, whether it's high school talent or directly with the portal guys. And I mean, as far as Butler's role itself is exactly what it says, executive director of player personnel. So he's constantly evaluating nonstop throughout the day.
When I talked to you back in December, you said something along, I asked you like what to tell the fans, and you said, hey, we've got a plan. And obviously, obviously disclosing that plan at the time would be like disclosing a game plan for a game. But can you give us any specificity on, beyond just retaining all the players you wanted to retain, or as many as you can, what was the plan? What do you feel like went well, and what do we need to, I guess, overcome in the next few months?
Yeah, so initially, I mean, I won't take you guys through the entire piece of it, even though I know you probably hope I would. But, you know, the initial plan is retain your guys, the guys that you obviously want to keep, because it's so vital to the foundation of the program. You know, but then also finishing our high school recruiting class. We just finished it. It's complete today with the addition of Jacobo. But back in December 3rd, you know, finishing up that class, the early signing period, on a strong note, which we did. We got just about everybody that we had planned to, with the exception of a couple guys. But we absolutely love our high school recruiting class. And so that retention from the guys that we were able to retain from the previous roster last year, and then the addition of the 21 high school newcomers that are coming now, it's just vital to the foundation of the program. You know, last year, I believe the number is 86 total newcomers that we had on the team. You know, not to talk too much about it, but last year when we got here, it just was kind of funky as far as the transfer portal dates, you know, and the head coaching cycle and the changes. And I think it was probably hard for anybody that had to go through that cycle during that time. And that's not to make an excuse, it's just the facts. You show up and you're hired for a job, and then the portal's already open, and then you've got to put a team together. I still remember, you know, when I first got signed, I came here, and probably 35 minutes after getting off the road, I had my first meeting with a transfer player, you know, and you know, when you sign 86 players, 86 people to do anything, you know, if you sign them up to go and accomplish a mission, and 86 new folks that are arriving, I mean, it's going to be challenging. And you know, obviously we saw the results of that. And, you know, we did the best that we could with what we had, and very thankful to everybody that played a contribution in last year's program. But we're moving forward now, obviously. And sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
I was just looking for, beyond that retention, I guess as it related
The plan.
to maybe just the general plan strategy of going into the portal. Was there something specific you guys are trying to?
Yeah, just looking to upgrade all across the roster. We saw, you know, struggles in different areas of the game plans that we would put together and personnel for the roster altogether. And, you know, we talked about it a little bit earlier, you know, investing in the trenches to make sure that we can, you know, protect our quarterback the way that he needs to be protected so that he can perform for the team, as well as get to the quarterback on the other side. You know, everything in football, I've said it for years since as a player, I said that it's the greatest team sport that there is. You know, it works like a puzzle. You know, if one person does not do their job, then the puzzle's not complete and there's a hole. You know, and so, you know, putting that team together, you know, on all three sides of the ball, you know, offense, defense, and special teams and kicking, that's just tremendous. You can have as good of an offense as you want to. If you don't have a good defense, you're going to end up in a shootout every single game. You can have as good a defense as you want to. If you don't have the offense to go put points on the board, sooner or later, you know, a a grudge match between the defenses. Somebody's going to score. And, you know, if you're not able to, then that's an issue. You know, or you find yourself in a close game and you're not able to capitalize on special teams, you know, and make a field goal or flip the field or, you know, cover on a punt to the level that it needs to be. You'll find yourself in a bad situation. So just overall wanted to not only replace but upgrade in every position that we saw fit. And we feel really strong about the additions that we've made to the team. We're really excited about the team and the work that they've been doing for the past 4 weeks or so. And man, it's really exciting. You obviously you evaluate the guys and you find the talent that can help us out immediately and then down the road as well. But obviously immediately, you know, we want to have immediate success this year. And then they get here and you get to see them all start gelling together like we have these past 4 weeks and the guys working. You know, it brings excitement. You feel really good about it. But obviously also we haven't had a snap of football played yet. So there's still the unknown there. But obviously from our evaluation and what we've seen from the guys thus far, man, we feel extremely excited about that.
All right, Brandon, thank you.
We can take it one more real quick. Sure. Just how quickly did the whole thing come together with Lozano after you had a abrupt departure?
With who?
With your new kicker after.
We had been out and evaluating Akobo the entire time, you know, because you just never know. So you're always evaluating and making sure that you have, you know, an option available in case something like that does happen. So we had already had tabs on him and had been recruiting him all the way up until the signing date. And so it came together fairly fast. We acted on it quick. We already felt great about him. And then obviously when that spot opened up, we attacked it like we would anything else.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.